In this episode of Retiring Today, we're talking about a retirement strategy that can have some big benefits. It's the Roth Conversion.
You may have heard about some of its tax benefits, but today we're going to talk about some of the other things it can do to help you achieve your retirement vision.
We'll talk about its connection to healthcare with Merkle Retirement Planning Director of Medicare, Anna Marie Morrow, right now on Retiring Today. Welcome to Retiring Today. This show is all about the Roth Conversion. I'm here with Loren Merkle. He's a certified financial planner, and part of helping people, Loren, meet their retirement vision is talking a lot about Roth IRAs and Roth Conversions. We've talked about the Roth IRA a lot, but let's revisit that and make sure people understand that before we get into the Roth Conversion.
Yeah, this Roth IRA we have talked about a little bit. It has so many different uses that people can use within their overall retirement plan to help them accomplish their retirement vision. So much, in fact, we created a show, the superhero show, which one of the superheroes is the Roth IRA. The Roth IRA is simply money that you put into an account that grows tax-free. It goes into the account after tax, meaning you've already paid taxes on it, and then it grows tax-free forever. So when you take the money out, you get to spend 100% of that. You don't have to send part of it to Uncle Sam and part of it to the state of Iowa. And now the Roth Conversion is you already have some of these pre-tax dollars, maybe your pre-tax 401k plan or pre-tax IRA. You're just taking a portion of that pre-tax money, shifting it over to the Roth. You do pay taxes on that conversion, but once it's in the Roth, again, it grows tax-free forever.
Okay, so Loren did mention the Roth IRA. If you want to learn more about that, you can go to YouTube, search Merkle Retirement Planning, look for the Power of the Roth IRA episode in a red cape, and that'll tell you that you're on our superhero series and you can learn more about that. But let's dive into the Roth Conversion, because the neat thing, Loren, about the Roth Conversion is it's not just about income, it's not just about taxes, it's about more. It's about a comprehensive retirement plan.
A lot of times when we've talked about the Roth IRA and Roth Conversions, we approach it from a tax standpoint of here's how much money you're going to have to pay in taxes to get the money to the Roth, and then it does grow tax-free, which is really good superpowers. But we don't oftentimes talk about how it impacts your income later down the road in retirement. We often also don't talk about how it can impact your investments and some of the other guiding principles of the Merkle retirement method or your retirement plan. So those are some of the topics we're going to dive in here today on today's show to tackle the tax side of it, but it's much more than that, because the Roth IRA is much more than just a tax-saving vehicle. So we're going to see how it correlates, how it integrates with these other guiding principles of the plan.
When I think of a conversion, I think of changing one thing into another. So what am I taking and then putting into a Roth Conversion? What kind of accounts?
Let's say that you've been contributing to a 401k plan for the last 30 years. You've amassed a $500,000 401k plan. You've never paid taxes on any of that $500,000. So when we're talking about Roth Conversion, maybe you take $25,000 of that pre-tax 401k plan, you convert it over to the Roth. So when you do that conversion, now you're paying taxes on that $25,000. So the question is why would I want to pay taxes on that $25,000 now when I still have the option to have that $25,000 grow tax deferred? That's the big question. For some people, it doesn't make any sense. You want to leave that money underneath the tax deferred account. And if that's you, then that's something that you need to evaluate every year to determine, does that continue to make sense? Because things are often changing, especially with tax legislative changes and some of the other legislative changes that have really taken place last year, 2019, as well as this year, 2020. But for many people, especially in a volatile market, 2020, we've seen a very volatile market. It's ups, big downs. Roth conversions can make a lot of sense from a tax standpoint, but they can also make a lot of sense when we have volatile markets. So if that's you, where the Roth conversions make sense, now it's about trying to time it in the best manner to capture as much benefit as you possibly can, and there's many strategies around that.
Let's go back to taxes for a minute, because I've heard you talk about this, and other authors and other people do what you do have often said taxes are on sale. Most likely taxes are going to go up.
The lowest tax bracket we have today is 10%. The highest tax bracket that we have today is 37%. Of course, we're talking about federal taxes. Historically, we have to, prior to 2010, we have to go all the way back to the 50s before we see another bracket as low as 10%. All we have to do is go back to the 80s, and that 37%, the highest bracket today, was over 70%. So, and historically, the highest tax bracket has been as high as 94%. Can you imagine? 94%, if you're in that bracket, 94% of every dollar over that threshold goes to the federal government, and then you receive the rest, well, after state, of course.
Yeah.
So, I mean, today taxes are on sale because the tax brackets rarely have they been lower. So now it's a matter of how do you use this tax structure, today's tax environment, to your favor as much as you can. So you can put yourself in a better position down the road from a tax perspective, which waterfalls over into the income side. Because if you pay less taxes, it's not about what you make. You can make $1 million a year, but if you only get to keep 100,000 of that, the $1 million doesn't do you much good. It's not what you make, it's what you get to keep. And what you get to keep is important because from there, it's about what you get to spend that determines what your lifestyle, what your retirement lifestyle is going to be like.
Okay, and this all sounds good conceptually, but sometimes people learn better when they use numbers. So I think you've got some numbers that'll show us the power of the Roth conversion.
Yeah, so what we're looking at with this graph is we're looking at one example where we don't pay taxes on the money now, right? We go by the defer mindset. We're not going to pay any taxes on your 401k plan until you absolutely have to when you take it out, or you're mandated to take it out at age 72 now. So that's that first graph, and you can see that those first 7 years, the height of those bar graphs represent how much tax you pay. Those first 7 years is minimal. Right, you're not paying because you're deferring the tax as long as you can. And then we get into about 2027 and you can see the tax skyrocket. And it really consistently rises from 2027 throughout the rest of your retirement. Okay, so this is if we don't do Roth conversions, we continue to defer taxes, pay little taxes early on, and then we pay a lot of taxes really for the rest of your retirement. So let's compare that versus if you do Roth conversions. So in this next graph, we're seeing that those bars are high because you're paying more taxes in the first 7 years because you're doing the Roth conversions. And when you execute on the Roth conversions, you're paying taxes on those conversions. So if you have a $500,000 account, you convert $50,000 over, you're paying taxes on the $50,000. But eventually, you convert over a lot of your pre-tax money. You're deriving your income from the Roth, the tax-free money. You still have your Social Security, so you're going to pay some tax on some income, but you can see now for the rest of your retirement, the amount of tax, income tax that you pay has decreased substantially compared if we don't do the Roth conversions early in retirement.
And maybe it's possible, I would think, that maybe there's a kind of a mental hurdle to having to pay those taxes when you think, no, I'd rather do that later. Are there strategies, if someone's sitting out there saying, I don't have $25,000 liquid cash to maybe pay the taxes on a conversion. Are there some strategies that you can use to help pay for that conversion?
It definitely,
the taxes, I should say, of the conversion.
Yeah, it definitely is a mindset shift because we've always been taught, let's not pay taxes until we absolutely have to. And we hear that message a lot from our CPAs. And in fact, that's why you hire a CPA. You don't hire a CPA and say, hey, I want to pay as much tax today as I possibly can, right? So your CPA is on your team to help you minimize the amount of tax you pay in that year. That's just always been our mindset. Does that make sense now going forward, especially given the tax situation now and what we expect down the road? So if you're of the mindset, let's pay more taxes now while taxes are on sale to save taxes later, now it's about how you pay the taxes. Because you're right, not everybody just has $10,000, $25,000 sitting around to pay taxes now. So there's a couple different ways you can pay those taxes. One is you can have taxes withheld from your conversion. Now, you don't want to do this unless you're 59 and a half or older, because let's say you're 55, you convert $50,000 over, you withhold $10,000. Well, now you have a 10% penalty on that because you're not 59 and a half. So that would be a strategy that may be more applicable for those who are older than 59 and a half. But that is a strategy. Withhold taxes from the converted amount. In that example, again, $50,000 converted, you withhold $10,000, and then $40,000 goes to the Roth, $10,000 goes to the taxing authorities. The other way is you can not withhold, and then you can pay the taxes out of another source when you go to file those taxes in the springtime of the following year. And one of the strategies that a lot of our families will use is they'll have this taxable account, this non-qualified account, that they can take money out of. It's tax favored, or sometimes we can take money out of that and not pay taxes at all. And then we can use that to pay the taxes. That way it doesn't have to come out of cash flow and upset what they're trying to do on a month-to-month or year-to-year basis from a cash flow standpoint.
And as we just talk about taxes, we have to talk about how when you do go to use this money as income in retirement, taxes, you don't have to pay them, right?
That's
right. You don't
right.
have to talk about paying taxes anymore.
When you take the income out in retirement from the Roth IRA, you do not have to pay federal taxes on it. Even moreover than that, it gives you more control over your source of income. Because if it's still underneath the pre-tax 401k plan at 72, you're mandated to start taking distributions on this bucket of money. This bucket of money over here in the Roth, there's no mandate. So if you don't want to take an income from it, you don't have to. If you want to take an income, you can take it all or you can take a portion of it, right? You have more control over that income source in your retirement.
We're going to continue talking about Roth Conversions. Anna Marie Morrow, Director of Medicare at Merkle Retirement Planning, will join us next.
You've saved most of your retirement assets in tax-deferred accounts like 401ks and IRAs. But what if taxes increase? How much of your hard-earned money will you actually get to keep? Attend the Power of Zero Retirement webinar presented by author and documentarian David McKnight. You will learn why taxes will likely be increasing, why you should consider transferring money into a tax-free alternative, and get a step-by-step roadmap on how to work toward the 0% bracket. Visit merkleplan.com to reserve your spot.
Has the recent market volatility put your retirement plan to the test? See if your retirement is still on track by scheduling a retirement checkup with Loren Merkle. During this 15-minute phone call, we'll discuss if your retirement plan could be disrupted by long-term market volatility. We'll also analyze your current tax plan and provide strategies on how to take advantage of the market. Go to merkleplan.com and click Book Now to schedule your retirement checkup today.
Welcome back to Retiring Today. We're continuing our conversation on the Roth conversion. I'm here with Loren Merkle. He is a certified financial planner, and Anna Marie Morrow. She's the director of Medicare at Merkle Retirement Planning. And Loren, it is important to have someone with Anna Marie's skills on our team. How does she help people plan their retirement vision?
We certainly enjoy having Anna Marie on the team as a part of, or as the Medicare specialist, because it's so complex. There's so many different moving parts. You have to stay on top of the moving parts, but the legislation that's involved with Medicare is consistently changing, much like the tax legislation, the Social Security legislation. So and all of these different guiding principles of the Merkle retirement method, the taxes, the income, the investments, the healthcare, all of that stuff is integrated. So decisions we make on the tax planning side could impact what decisions you make on the Medicare side, or the costs, and the decisions you make on the Medicare healthcare side could impact what we do on these other guiding principles as well. So it's important to have specialists in each one of these areas to make sure that our family's retirement plans are working the best to accomplish their retirement vision.
Yeah, and Anna Marie Morrow, when you think of a Roth conversion and you think of healthcare, it's kind of hard to make the connection, but you're able to do that.
Yeah, it's so fun to see the power of planning behind something like that, because when you think of Roth conversions, it's not synonymous with healthcare. You're thinking, why do I need to talk about healthcare when we're talking about Roth conversions? But that's what makes it so fun and interesting and educational, is to see how those two can work together in the long run, and how they work together today is making it a part of your plan and making your retirement vision what you want it to be.
And because when you do a Roth conversion, this counts as income, it really can affect your Medicare premiums.
It can, absolutely. So your Medicare Part B premium, if you exceed a certain income range, and we're going to pull up a graph here where your Part B premium is based on certain incomes. And if you exceed the top tier there, let's say you are an individual, you make more than $87,000, your IRMA kicks in, which is your income-related monthly adjustment. So that payment is based on what you claim for income 2 years previously. So since Roth conversions count as income, you need to make sure that whatever planning you do, you're prepared for what bracket that could put you in, or if you want to have control over what bracket you're in, that's definitely something to consider when looking at a Roth conversion.
Yeah, so Loren, sometimes a Roth conversion, then could it make more sense to do that well before age 65? Or sometimes you do them after 65 as well?
Yeah, we both, and it really depends upon individual situations. If we can complete Roth conversions up to the point that we don't have to do any more prior to Social Security age, so for some people at 62, some people want to take their Social Security right away at 62, or certainly before 63, which is 2 years prior to Medicare eligibility, then that can make a lot of sense. But just because you might be 63 or 66 or 67, that does not mean that Roth conversions don't make the most sense. So as an example, if your options from a Medicare Part B standpoint are to pay $144 a month, or to pay $200 a month, that's $60 a month more, which would be what, $600, $700 a month, or $700 for the year greater. Well, does it make sense to pay $700 more and then save tens of thousands of dollars potentially down the line doing the Roth conversions? Some people would say yes. Other people might look at that math and say, well, I don't want to pay that much more now, regardless, but at least that information is at their disposal to help them make the best decisions possible for them, and they know what they're getting into, whether it's Part B or the Roth conversion tax status.
Because you find, Anna Maria, that sometimes people are surprised. They think that they're going to pay one thing, but in reality, that's not what their premium is.
Yes, exactly. People do get excited about Roth conversions, and it's a great thing, but then they don't understand that it counts as income. So that just draws their attention to it. Education is powerful, and that's why the power of the plan and having a plan is so important, is because seeing that sticker shock look on people's faces is kind of something we really want to avoid. Earlier this year, we sat down with a woman expecting to pay the $144. And we looked at her income 2 years previously, and she actually had to end up paying over $400 a month for her Part B premium. And looking at those income ranges, she needed to make over $500,000 at the time, so she could probably afford it at that point, but that's still a sticker shock face we want to avoid moving forward. So if you are doing a Roth conversion, just be aware of what that could mean 2 years down the road, or if you're on the Affordable Care Act, if you've qualified for a subsidy, just know that Roth conversions do count as income.
Okay, great tip. So let's talk a little bit about healthcare and long-term care. We know that it's something that families, when you sit down with them, they're like, we know this is expensive, but how do we pay for it?
Oh, sure, and that is a heartbreaking conversation that we have as we're meeting with people after the workshops we put on. First time here in our office, you know, how many of our viewers are currently taking care of a family member or know someone that is? And the out-of-pocket costs for long-term care annually can be upwards of $285,000. Morningstar released a report where 52% of Americans over the age of 65 will need some type of long-term care during their lifetime. So it's definitely something we need to make a part of the conversation, and a Roth conversion can help us on that path.
Yeah, and it is expensive, Loren, but it's not all doom and gloom if you have a plan in place to pay for it.
A plan in place is definitely a necessity when it comes to an expense like what you're talking about. $285,000 a lifetime, maybe just from a long-term care standpoint. And for some people, it's more than that. So it's a matter of how are you going to cover that risk. There's multiple ways that you can do that, from self-insuring to offsetting a piece or all of that risk to an insurance company. But if you choose to offset a piece of that or all of that risk to an insurance company, now there's a premium cost. And that's an expense which can weigh heavily on the month-to-month cash flows for a lot of retirees. So there is no easy, clear-cut answer for many people, but the answer does become much more clear. There's a lot more clarity around it when you have that plan in place to show you, here's the immediate and long-term impacts of this option, this avenue. Here's the immediate and long-term impacts of this avenue, and then you can see what that looks like, and it's a lot easier for you then to determine what decisions are going to be the best for you, and you can make those decisions with confidence and not have to worry about looking back 5 years or 20 years from now saying, I wish I would have chosen this route, or I wish I would have investigated what my options were 20 years ago, because right now I have to pay $15,000 a month for long-term care and I just don't have it. Right, and that's unfortunately what a lot of people are faced with. Families that we work with today, they're paying somewhere between $3,300 a month to $10,000 a month for long-term care. 20 years from now, that number is going to be that much bigger. So it's a matter about how do you offset that risk? What's the best way for you? Roth conversions can be a part of that. And then as you're developing your strategy now, how does that impact some of the other guiding principles like the Medicare Part B premiums that you may have to pay as well?
It's time for our Ask the Advisor question. We've got one today from Larry in Winterset. Larry wants to know, is it too late to start Roth conversions if I'm already taking RMDs? We'll answer Larry's questions and we'll talk about Roth conversions and your legacy plan when Retiring Today continues.
With the current state of the markets, are you worried about what the future might hold for your retirement? Take advantage of learning opportunities through our online workshops. Learn if your retirement is still on track and discover income, tax, and investment strategies from the comfort of your own home. Go to merkleplan.com to view course offerings and sign up today. Take control of your retirement. Sign up today.
Welcome back to Retiring Today. Larry from Winterset wants to know, is it too late to start Roth conversions if I'm taking RMDs? I'm here with Loren Merkle. He's a certified financial planner. Loren, what would you tell Larry?
I would say, Larry, it is not too late just because you're taking RMDs. You can still do Roth conversions if you want to, if it makes sense. So just like prior to the RMD age, you need to do an independent evaluation every single year to say, does it make sense based on all the taxable income that you have coming in, based on the types of other retirement resources that you have, and based on what your income plan is later on in your retirement. But I would say this year, the CARES Act was passed, which means you don't have to take an RMD if you don't want to. So what some people are choosing to do, instead of taking that RMD, they're using that as a Roth conversion. So maybe this year you can skip the RMD, you can do the Roth conversion, or if you want to take the RMD, now it's a matter of, does it still make sense to do the Roth conversion?
Yeah, and the answer to Larry's question is so specific to Larry, as is the answer to many of your retirement questions. So if you've got something specific that you want to talk to an advisor about, we've got a neat opportunity. You can schedule a 15-minute retirement checkup call with one of our advisors at Merkle Retirement Planning. Go to merkleplan.com. You'll be linked directly to the calendar of our advisors, and you can schedule your 15-minute checkup call there. We'll continue our conversation about Roth conversions, and there's two more things we want to make sure people know about. That's legacy planning and investments. Let's talk about investments first. Learn what's important.
Well, from an investment standpoint, it's very much tied to the market, and what we do know about the markets is it goes up and it goes down. And this year in 2020, it has done a lot of both. A lot of big ups and a lot of big downs. So from a Roth conversion standpoint, if it makes sense, from a tax standpoint, and you can time your Roth conversion with a down market, then it even makes that much more sense to execute on the Roth conversion. We'll give you a quick example. Let's just say you have a stock, XYZ stock, valued at $50 a share. You own 100 shares of that stock. But because of the market decline, the value of XYZ stock gets cut in half. So now it's valued at $25 a share. If you convert over that same 100 shares, but now it's worth half as much, you're paying taxes on that conversion half as much. And then once it's in the Roth, once this market rebounds, assuming XYZ stock also rebounds, now you get all of that growth underneath the Roth tax-free. So compare that versus not doing a Roth conversion. You still own XYZ stock. Yeah, it loses half. When the market rebounds, assuming it rebounds, you get that growth, but underneath the pre-tax account, you still owe taxes on that growth. So it makes sense, if it makes sense, from a tax standpoint to do Roth conversions, and you can time it with a down market, then it makes even more sense. And that's why last year we were really encouraging our families to get together what they thought their taxable income for this year was going to be, because we thought that this year was going to be volatile. So we said, hey, if we get some volatility early on in the year, let's have a good idea of what our taxable income is going to be so we can just go with these Roth conversions, because we already have, for most of our families, we already had a set amount that we knew that we wanted to convert based on their projected taxable income.
When you make the conversion, is it always apples to apples, or do you sometimes convert XYZ stock to ABC stock, or can you make that choice once you get inside the Roth?
Yeah, we can do both. I mean, the example we gave with XYZ stock was apples to apples, right? We had 100 shares of XYZ stock. It got it depreciated. We just converted that same 100 shares over to the Roth. Or what we could do is we could sell XYZ stock, and then we can move the cash over to the Roth, and then we could repurchase XYZ stock or ABC stock or anything else that we wanted to do. So we have that flexibility, and what we choose to do is also very dependent upon the circumstances as well.
Okay, let's talk about Roth conversions and legacy planning. With the passing of the Secure Act that went into effect in early 2020, there's definitely some stuff people should know.
Well, Roth conversions are more friendly from a beneficiary standpoint. With the Secure Act, it basically mandates all IRAs be liquidated post your death within a 10-year period of time. So if we have two options, we have money that you pass on to your kids that's underneath the pre-tax accounts. They have to take that out within a 10-year period of time, which means that they're going to pay taxes on 100% of your pre-tax IRA balance over that 10-year period of time. Versus the money that they receive in the Roth IRA, they still have to have it out within a 10-year period of time, but the taxes have already been paid. They don't have to pay any taxes on any of that money. So now there's some advanced strategies that you, as the owner of these accounts, if you have legacy ambitions, or even if your ambition is, hey, I want to use as much of this as I can when I'm alive, but whatever's left over, I want it to go in the best way possible, right? There's still some strategy you can put into play dependent upon how much money you have underneath the pre-tax and the Roth, and you can designate, I want the Roth to go here and I want the pre-tax to go here. I want some of the pre-tax to go to charities because charities don't pay any taxes when they receive it, right? There's all this strategy that you can incorporate, but first getting a good understanding of what your legacy ambitions are. And then from there, we can devise what the most appropriate legacy strategy is. But the Roth IRA does offer you a lot of advantages legacy-wise that the pre-tax accounts don't.
And we've only got a few seconds, but are there limits on what you can do inside a Roth each year?
As far as what you convert?
Yeah.
Yeah, see, there's confusion. Sometimes there are limits on what you can contribute to a Roth, but there are no limits on what you convert, meaning what you take from a pre-tax IRA and move over to the Roth. The only limit is how much tax do you want to pay that year on the conversion.
And again, those retirement checkups, merkleplan.com, you get linked directly to the advisor's calendar, and you can schedule a 15-minute checkup to ask about Roth conversions or anything that is on your mind when it comes to your retirement vision. We also hold workshops. These are complimentary workshops, and these workshops kind of meet you where you're at in your retirement journey. So if you're on your journey to retirement, you can sign up for that one. If you're already in retirement, there may be something else for you there. So go to merkleplan.com to check out those complimentary workshops, and we'll continue talking about your retirement vision on this show. It's Retiring Today, and we thank you for watching.
You've saved most of your retirement assets in tax-deferred accounts like 401ks and IRAs. But what if taxes increase? How much of your hard-earned money will you actually get to keep? Attend the Power of Zero Retirement webinar presented by author and documentarian David McKnight. You will learn why taxes will likely be increasing, why you should consider transferring money into a tax-free alternative, and get a step-by-step roadmap on how to work toward the 0% bracket. Visit merkleplan.com to reserve your spot.
From our family to yours, we hope you have a wonderful weekend.
We hope you enjoyed the show.
We'll see you next week.